great to meet you. Thank you for doing this. And we had to, move some things around in your schedule. And I'm looking forward to chatting with you. So thank you.
Yes, thank you.
So for people are not going to be familiar with your work, do you mind introducing yourself, your name, who you are, and your background?
My name is Brent Dmitruk, and I am from Canada and living in Mexico right now. And and it would now be exactly 5 years that I've been into earthquakes because of a series of incidents that happened in the southern Philippines when I used to live in the Philippines. So that's where the whole earthquake thing started from me when I like pre-COVID. Uh, the Philippines was my base, and that's where the whole earthquake subject came. And then since COVID, Mexico has been my main base.
So I want to go backwards here to go into your background. So you were in the Philippines, and explain how this development into earthquakes, how you came about it.
Well, it turns out that so I was living in Davao City in the southern Philippines when suddenly, just out of nowhere, this whole explosion of major earthquakes came out of nowhere. And this really caught my attention because this group of earthquakes of magnitude 6.5 and up was pretty unusual. It was very unusual. And so it turns out these earthquakes, which were on the volcano, they were happening clearly due to an increase in pressures. So you can think like the volcano is like a soft spot in the interior of the island in the Philippines. And why did they start getting so many earthquakes suddenly in that time? It's because the in the middle the volcanic area is softer Earth's crust. So what happened is they started popping up one after the other, big earthquakes, and I was in them, so I felt them strongly. And so it made me investigate. I got this strong feeling that it meant something huge was coming, although I didn't realize at the time the scale of the whole thing, and that what would later end up being my findings that the coming big event, would not even be in the Philippines. But this is what led me to now the whole subject. And it's worth noting that both Japan and the Philippines are on the same plate, the Philippine plate. So all this all this is what led me to the topic. And so now, but instead of this, my end of the Philippine plate at that time being the epicenter of the coming huge earthquake, it's actually the north end. But anyways, that's how the whole thing actually started with the earthquakes. And now it's been a while, and I'm not in the Philippines anymore.
What did you think was coming then at that point when you were in the Philippines and you were right in the middle of all this?
Oh, I forgot to mention about that early development. What I sensed was a massive pressure situation, and so I quickly came to the conclusion that it's because plates were jammed, stuck where I was. The plates aren't moving, but instead are stuck, and being stuck means an accumulation of energy. One thing that's important to understand about all this is how it all works, because mantle convection is what drives the movement of plates, and it's always pushing and moving the plates. But the thing is, if it's stuck, all that is accumulating energy. So because the plates are indeed stuck, the Philippine plate is actually totally jammed. All the energy is building up, and you could see by looking at records of the all records dating back to the beginning of record keeping, the Philippine plate is for the most part completely lacking the larger end of earthquake sizes, like above magnitude 7.7. there are pretty much no earthquakes of that size and up. The Philippine plate is essentially completely locked over all recent history. This is going back way back. So when an event happens, this is hundreds to thousands of years of energy that is to release in a coming mega quake. So the incident in the Philippines just made me discover that it's a pressure situation due to jammed plates, and this discovery has evolved over the years to my current findings. That is the CULEBRA event, the coming mega quake.
So it's funny. Your reaction when you said Mega Quake was funny. Do you explain the plates? What the plates are?
Well, the plates really are just broken up pieces of the crust because mantle convection is a major process of the Earth. It causes movement, and the mantle I best describe like rubber. So it's not completely solid, but it's not a liquid. So it doesn't move. So it doesn't move smoothly either. It's the mantle is stuck to the plates and it's always moving. So that means that the crust is constantly being pulled and dragged. And so at different points, it gets pulled down. And so that's actually the reason why. I've even noticed that they have put out this competing or disputing claims about what causes plates to move, as if they don't apparently know even totally what causes a movement. And just from my own observations, I 100% know what is mostly behind earthquakes and plate movements. It's that the plates are actually completely stuck to the mantle, and the mantle convection, which is driven by the heat of the earth, is completely responsible for plate movement. So that's why. And again, it's broken up into plates because the only way for the plates to keep moving in response to convection is by one end going under, and then in the middle of the ocean, in mid-ocean ridges, it gets pushed up and outward. It's just a cycle. So that's why it's split up in plates. And one of my important observations is that at any given time, the plates in general are not actually sliding. Plates are always stuck by friction, and it only moves at points when there are earthquakes. So plates are basically always stopped and moving when there's an earthquake. They're not sliding. I think that there might be many media and stuff that depict that in general the plates are sliding, but they're not. Plates are actually all stuck in a friction lock. And ordinary earthquakes, like even Japan 2011, are just caused by localized release of energy. And so when it suddenly slips or pops, that's what the earthquakes are. But that's due to deformation and localized movement. So the big earthquake that I'm expecting is supposed to be like a full scale release of strain, accumulated strain on the plates. And that's what it is all about. That my findings are, and a lot of things add up and make a lot of sense about this, especially when you look at where earthquakes happen, how big they are, the type. Like, there's a lot of things. Most people don't even look at details about what earthquakes actually are. Some people have tried to contradict me, saying my findings are fake because earthquakes are happening and blah blah blah. But when you actually look at things like what type of earthquakes, like all the earthquakes that you're seeing are in the Northwest Pacific pretty much are not thrust type. Thrust earthquake just basically means the plate is actually moving. And when you get all types of earthquake accept thrust, it means that the only cause of earthquakes that's happening is due to deformation, like rock splitting or bending, like that. But the plate is not even moving. Like all like north of Japan and south of Japan, especially south of Japan, all the earthquakes you see, there are no large thrust earthquakes anywhere in the records because those plates are actually completely stuck together. And when an earthquake does happen, it's due to nothing more than just deformation and bending, like I just said. That's it. The plates are actually completely locked and have been that way for a long time. So that's how the whole thing actually works, from all my findings.
So what is the Philippines? I don't even remember hearing about that earthquake.
Oh, which
The
earthquake?
Philippines, the one in the Philippines.
Oh, this is, well, if you mean like the incidents back in 2019, 5 years ago when I started this, these were ordinary. These were like magnitude 6.5 up to 6.9. They weren't big. You could easily miss them in the news. Uh, but they're not big news. It was a huge cluster of earthquakes. It was mostly just weird if you're there. Otherwise, it means nothing. I would have missed the whole thing myself if I weren't just physically present there. I wouldn't even gotten into this if I weren't there for it. So that's why.
The so with what you experience, that was your entry into earthquakes, right? That was what started all this. What is the
Yeah.
mega quake that you're anticipating?
This at the beginning it was supposed to be in the Philippines, but then so what I learned later was actually that the whole Pacific plate up in and around Japan is totally locked. Actually, if you look at its history of large earthquakes, it's now totally lacking. I even have this map still open. So I have it on here since going all the way back to August, the whole area, all from Alaska all the way through Asia, has not had any major earthquake 6.5 plus since this summer. It's very quiet. So I've done some comparisons. You compare normal periods to the current one, and there's supposed to be lots of major earthquakes in there, and there's not a single one. So this whole area is locked and increasing in tightness. And what's going to happen is the whole area from Alaska going across to Kamchatka in eastern Russia and down to Japan is going to have this massive release. It's basically like a large release of strain of the plate that will cause the plate to shove forward like by more than 80 meters or something of movement. The whole plate in that whole section I just said will all move forward because it's been stuck. And so that's what the CULEBRA event will be. And then what are the signs that are showing that it is looking like it's relatively close? It's because just in the last 2 years, it's gotten a lot quieter. Like if you look back years, going decades and years back, there wasn't much change. There it was already lacking major earthquakes, like the biggest sizes going back decades. But over the last couple of years, it started going really, really, really quiet. Like the tightness is reaching a terminal phase, and so that tells me that it's moving towards like the late stages before it's supposed to release because it's much quieter. Like when I started looking at it back in 2020 and 2021, this kind of stuff wasn't that evident yet. And so the very obvious silence all around that whole area from the northwest tip of North America all across Asia, Middle East, Europe, the whole thing is sitting quiet now. So that's why it looks like it's more in the terminal stage. It's likely not much longer. At the very least, like within 5 years at least, like it probably happens, this mega quake. And it just so happens to coincide with all these things, like this great reset, agenda 2030. That's just what makes me kind of feel like the whole thing coincides, almost as if they expected the mega quake in that time. Even though, of course, the mega quake is not in their control, but it feels like it fits in the timeline of when the global economic reset is supposed to happen. So the mega quake definitely should, based on what I see with everything now, within 5 years, before year 2030, the mega quake should happen. Yeah, so that's all that I see. It's going to be globally affecting economic event, because it's going to totally halt trade, economic activity. It could just completely shut down the financial system. I'm thinking Japan will just halt. And like even the economy of Japan, it's kind of coincidental about the fact that it's the country that by far the most looks like its economy is on life support. Almost like maybe they're expecting, I'm not totally sure if it's linked, but it almost looks like it's like they're just holding on and keeping the economy on life support, because of the sky high over 200% of GDP debt and all that stuff. The economy doesn't look like anything real with Japan. I think maybe they just hold it. The mega quake happens, and just like a flip, the flip of a switch, Japan's economy will be gone. I'm thinking when the mega quake happens. So it's more than just the earthquake. It's the global economy that relates with this. There won't be really an economy like now, like literally the day after the mega quake. Of course, there's a tsunami and all that. The force of the plate moving forward, like this, would of course produce a massive tsunami. This I would calculate would be like several hundred times more energy output than the Japan 2011 earthquake. So this is the CULEBRA event. What makes it different in size from an ordinary earthquake, like even Japan 2011, is it's not just a small point along the plate edge that's moving. Like Japan 2011 was just like this spot, like a 200 to 250-kilometer wide spot along the edge of the Pacific plate that popped. Basically, it popped just that size alone, one point on the plate. Like basically, the plate itself didn't move at all. So what makes the CULEBRA event different is that basically the whole plate, in a whole section, the northwest, a whole northwest section of the plate is just going to shove forward, and that force is a mega sized force, and that's why the CULEBRA event is going to be much bigger. It's a slip of the plate extending thousands of kilometers from south of Japan up to the area that I've stated before, all the way to Alaska. That's why the CULEBRA event is going to be so big. So you see that's important to understand why we're even talking about something so much bigger. That's how you see the difference for the CULEBRA event.
I you have to explain this to me like I'm five, Brent. What would this look like? Let's say this mega quake hopefully not tomorrow on Christmas. Let's say it happens on the 26th. I'm in Arizona, you're in Mexico City. What happens based on your research?
Well, based on my research, I would logically think, well, first off, it will be all blacked out. I won't, I can say I've been expecting the whole time. I'm not going to go viral on social media. I don't think there will be social media. I think everything will be blacked out. The tsunami will hit after 16 hours on the U.S. West Coast, and it'll be felt worldwide. And so telecommunications, electricity likely goes down in much of the world. There will power, like everything will just be a mess. Power will go out, and then they'll have to shut down gas lines, which will be closed. There'll be no flow of gas and oil. All those things will be shut down, and because everything is interconnected, with the shipping will be immediately shut down. You can't have a power grid and everything that functions the way you see now when half of everything is in basically ruins. So there'll be none of those components you need for nuclear power plants or coal power plants or any of that stuff. So for many possible reasons, the electricity will be down. And then as I said, the tsunami, it takes 16 hours to cross from where the epicenter and the main rupture will be to the US West Coast. So then the port will be like just left in a mangled mess after it goes under like close to 100 meters of water. It will be a mangled mess with no electrical service or anything. So the ports will be gone long enough that it'll completely shut down everything. So no trade. It'll be a complete shutdown of everything. So that's how it'll take. That's how it'll go, taking about 24 hours for everything to fully transpire. And then everything blacked out, um and it will be felt worldwide. That's the other thing. There are also some publications, several research publications talking about how heavily an earthquake will be felt worldwide when it's over magnitude 10.0, to the point that the ground actually heaves and waves like even like a tall building like size for wave movement of the ground surface. Like in an ordinary earthquake, maybe it moves like a feet, I mean like 1 foot up and down. Like in a large earthquake, that's how much the ground moves, like 1 foot um, of up and down movement. That's what a normal large earthquake is, but the ground might move even like more, like the amplitude or whatever that thing is. It's going to be a very large amplitude that the ground will shake and heave up and down globally during the Mega Quake. Like what happened when the asteroid of the dinosaurs hit, which coincidentally is in the country I'm in now, Mexico, that produced massive waves worldwide. In a larger earthquake like this, be it asteroid or a regular, like an ordinary cause earthquake, which is tectonic like this, in either case, an earthquake is felt globally, and it's global shaking. It's only strange and foreign concept to us because we haven't been around in our modern times for a long time. We only have modern record keeping for a few hundred years. We don't have documentation of what it's like to be in a global earthquake, even though I would calculate global earthquakes caused by larger movements in the Earth's crust have happened many times in Earth's past. All those times, though, it would have been different. You didn't have big buildings and stuff. So that's interestingly though, with the like, I think that stuff that you see in the Bible might be an indication that even though they had no idea the actual cause, them talking about an earthquake like they did in certain parts of the Bible probably just indicates simply that they've been through a global earthquake before, but didn't know what caused it. So that might be a sign that it's happened hundreds of years ago, and so it's ended up written somewhere. But again, they wouldn't have known. but that's a sign that might be one of the few signs showing that mankind has been through one of them before. Yes, and the whole concept is just modified, but you can see that that would have been a much larger one, not just like the ones we see now, which are of course regional. So that's details about what a global megaquake is, and why it is a global megaquake.
I, in Southern California in July of 2019, there was a magnitude 7.1 earthquake.
Yes.
That,
Yeah.
oh, go ahead.
Oh no, you can continue.
Oh, no, I was just going to say that, from what I recall, that was pretty sizable.
Yeah, that was sizable, and although interesting details about what the earthquake was. First of all, it was not on the San Andreas Fault, and two, it was not a strike slip earthquake. So again, the type of earthquake is what matters. So like a strike slip fault means when two parts of the Earth's crust are horizontally moving past each other. That's what the San Andreas Fault is. But that California earthquake was a reverse fault earthquake. So what that means is that it's under pressure. Um, so one chunk of land is actually under pressure, forced to go up relative to the other part. So that was a pressure induced or triggered earthquake. Very different from what is supposed to trigger San Andreas fault. So it made sense why that earthquake happened, because the plates are under pressure. No large strike slip or sliding earthquake has happened. Why? Because with the plates being locked, they are not moving side by side. They're not sliding side by side at all. I've been arguing this for years, and it's held together because there have been absolutely no medium to large earthquakes anywhere on the San Andreas Fault or any sliding faults the entire time I've been saying this, and I've been maintaining the idea that it won't until the CULEBRA event happens. So yeah, that earthquake that you commented was caused by pressure, forcing the land to move up. So that's why it happened.
I am fascinated to learn how you research this. Like, what is your process when you dive in, and what are you looking at, and how much time do you allocate daily, weekly in your analysis?
Uh, well, I'd say probably less now in recent months than before. I'd say that by the end of 2022, I've learned the vast majority of what I've done, which is through constant observation of every kind of thing that I can see, which made everything add up. I remember it was right at this exact time 2 years ago that I discovered that that the plates are locked and jammed under Japan because the plates are not sliding. So all these observations had been made from every time I see something, it just adds, it's like a building block of understanding. And so clues come together over time, and it makes me realize things. So that's how I've come to realize and discover various things. And so now I have a very heavily built up understanding of how the whole thing works, from the mantle clearly with its involvement to how the plates are locked and and pressure buildup and what causes earthquakes to happen with respect to the fact that the plates are indeed locked by friction and all these different things. I've just connected the dots really. And so anytime I find free time, it pretty much goes to that. So that's basically what the answer is to that. Pretty much any free time I have, it goes to the earthquake stuff. Yes, and like almost anytime I'm not working, eating, or any of that stuff, I am looking at something about this. Obviously, because it's interesting enough, so I'm never bored to get in to check in on it.
So basically, we're screwed, Brent. Is what you're telling me.
Yeah, like I think like really well, I'm not 100% sure. Again, a lot of signs just kind of add up to suggest that the about the economic link. They've known a long time that two things that there's going to be a huge release of a mega quake because the plates are locked and they know much more with measuring what's happening with the plates to know when it's going to happen, that there's going to be a mega quake. And then secondly, that the global economic system is a bubble and will completely crash. And so like the economic situation, the whole economic structure was never meant to continue on. So they've printed a lot more money and all this blah 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 stuff from the last 5 years, knowing the economy will be all right to fully crash in a certain time because the economy can't go on like this. It's a debt-based economy. So the what I'm feeling is that this is going to be the largest reversal in world civilization, and it's probably going to be timed with when this massive earthquake actually happens. Like we've been on a debt-based system in some form dating back hundreds of years when the fractional reserve banking and all that stuff started hundreds of years ago. And the whole, but that was a very small bubble. Ever since the economy started being based on debt, we started on the path towards an unsustainable economy, but it exploded over the recent years. And this whole economy isn't meant to hold. This whole thing has to crash. And I just feel that the fact that I see enough convincing signs that my mega quake is supposed to come like at the most within several years, it seems like it's time with when this economic system has to crash too, and they're expecting the crash to be timed. So yeah, of course we're screwed. This is the system they built with the banks and everything, and it'll I think it'll just all disappear, and people won't realize that the economic system was eventually supposed to completely crash anyways, because when the mega quake happens, that's just what's going to happen. The economy will be gone in like a day or something when the earthquake when this mega quake happens. Yes.
In your research, have you done any estimations or calculations on the survivability rate or percent or people that of the world population that would survive this?
Well, there'll actually be two parts. First, like how many people would survive initially, and then what impact it would have over the medium term on the population. That's also what we have to look at. Like I'd say most of the population will survive initially. So like if you see it like a graph, first there would be a sudden steep drop, but not nearly even half the world population. But then the population would just start declining steadily after that because the livability won't will not be great. because really most of the population will be killed by the tsunami, not even from falling buildings, I don't think. Like several million could be killed by falling buildings, and another similar amount by the tsunamis, but the vast majority of the population won't get killed by the event itself. But it'll be following that. Like you look at all the factors, there will all the diabetics and all the people that need their medicine, and then everyone else that will face starvation. So it'll mostly be a sudden reversal in the global population that will gradually happen after the event, rather than just sudden loss in the population, and that's it. Rather than that, it'll be that gradual reversal of the population after. That's how I feel. So maybe like half the population could be lost, but that would happen after months or maybe even years after it. So I don't even know when. I really, all I can just say is like definitely even upfront effect would result in a large death toll, but then the death toll will just keep mounting as it's unlivable for the population, and then the population will continue decline, going long after the mega quake. So that's what I mostly see.
I don't think I want to survive this, Brent. I want to go in the first wave.
But well, the thing is, most people don't have the capacity to adapt. But this is why I am working towards a future plan to live in the Amazon rainforest. But the thing is, the Amazon rainforest is meant to host a small population. If someone is lucky enough to live in the Amazon, or any of the rural areas in southern Mexico, or other areas of Latin America, there you can plant and grow your own food. But most of the world population outside of Latin America will lack food resources. India, Europe, and East Asia will be unlivable. They won't be able to support the population. So most of the population won't or will have major hardships, and there will be loss of life because it's not sustainable. But for the few, if they're lucky to get to Latin America's tropics and like grow their own farm, then yeah, it's survivable if someone can live off the land. But then you have to be ready and then grow your own food.
Why? Why? I missed something. Why the Amazon? Why is the Amazon a good place to be?
The Amazon, well, not the only one. As I said, there's a lot of very productive areas, starting from southern Mexico, extending all the way down through much of Latin America. Is all very sustainable place. It's mostly because of the growing conditions. So there's an ample balance of sunlight, rainfall, and low population density that you can easily live off the land. So things grow year round. Many factors, but overall, uh, um, it's 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 perfect for subsistence agriculture, and many other places in the world not so much. I couldn't see myself setting up in Canada or Germany or any of those places. I couldn't even figure out how to manage half the year when it's not ideal growing conditions, and freezing and all that stuff. So it really does need to be a warm climate. That's how you can really get set up and live through it. So that's the reason.
So that's what led you to Mexico City then, right now.
Yeah, being in Mexico, uh, the important thing was escaping Canada and being in Mexico. So, and I also have contacts in Mexico, two different contacts that all want to help me Also, in case Mexico is a base, I have options to stay in Mexico also and plant a farm also. So Mexico is a starting point to safety, because this is where you enter the tropics to subtropics area. Anywhere from here, once now that I'm here, it's good. If I were stuck in Canada, I would feel screwed. Mexico is a starting point to have access to somewhere to start a subsistence lifestyle, whether it be in Mexico itself or south of it. But at least I have options here, because that's what I want, a subsistence agricultural lifestyle for what's coming up after.
Do you think we're going to get a taste of that? Do you anticipate the financial collapse ahead of this?
Do I anticipate the financial
A
collapse?
financial collapse or a system collapse from a monetary standpoint that you touched on earlier, saying how it was in sync with the Mega Quake. Do you think that if that financial collapse occurs ahead of it, it will give people a sense of where this is all going?
Um, that well, all I can say is I've been hoping for that. I want it to start. I've been watching several things like the yield curve, and there are people that deny it and say nonsense, but I know the yield curve is very accurate. Um, we just finished the longest ever inverted yield curve, which is all coinciding at the same time as all this now. After the yield curve uninverts, it means an event is going to happen. And when the yield curve is inverted this massively, like much more than 2008 or the 2000.com bubble, it means that whatever is going to happen with the economy is going to be much more serious than the .com 2000 bubble or the 2008 financial crisis. It's like many times larger scale. And so that means, and so the fact that it uninverted now, and then the Fed rate cut, all this stuff I use as a kind of like signs of where everything, because everything is planned really, where everything is going. That means that the economic meltdown is supposed to start also like by January or February. The economy likely doesn't hold out much past that. By the second half of winter, the economic meltdown looks like it's supposed to start. And so I don't know if this is supposed to hold off until when the mega quake happens, but this economic meltdown looks like it's supposed to start by the second half of this winter. Everything that I see shows that's when the meltdown is supposed to start with the global economy. So that's very soon. It's coming very soon from all the signs.
Yeah, what's what you're touching on here, it just thinks I think in my head, all these countries that we're seeing these governments collapse, right? And this isn't happening, I don't believe, by coincidence.
Mm-hmm.
And to touch, to add to what you're saying about a global collapse, I don't think we're that far off from it either.
Yeah, I don't feel like we are. I even made a Twitter post a little while ago saying that world currencies are going to depreciate and fall ahead of the US dollar before a full system collapse. So and now and if you look at the Indian rupee, Brazilian real, there's now crashes happening. Brazil raising its interest rate. Like overall, everything shows almost like end times vibes kind of thing. What's happening with Brazil, India, all this. Europe's manufacturing, it's like it doesn't matter anymore that Europe about Europe's economy, because everything is going to crash, and they're already starting it. The manufacturing is in Europe is now crashing. Interesting to look at though is the U.S. oil and gas rig count. I'm checking that now, and the rig count is now crashing. It's like everything kind of looks like it's crashing now. The rig count, I've been investigating their oil and gas thingy, and it was close to 900 as a post-COVID peak. Now it's down into the 500s. So the oil and gas, it's going down for the drilling, and then all those other things I said. It's like everything is winding down. That's what it looks like right now. All of those things, everything seems to be winding down before a collapse. So it looks like something is happening with this starting.
Yeah, and even with South Korea, they declared martial law for like 5 minutes a couple weeks ago. You have Syria,
Mm-hmm.
you had France, um, Germany, Canada. It looks like Trudeau is close to resigning or stepping down. Same thing.
The ship to the right,
What's
the
that?
right political right.
Yeah, yes, yeah. But I also, I it's all happening simultaneously.
Yeah, exactly. All simultaneously. Yes, it's all happening at once. All those things.
Do you think it? Do you
Yeah.
think? Do you think it? You have it the Calibra. You call it the Calibra event.
Culebra
Calibra,
event.
excuse me, Calibra event.
Hmm.
Um, I would almost tie all this into it. It's such a grand name, the Calibra event.
Yeah, I've made some commentary before that I think the whole thing is almost like expected to be a neatly laid out crash. That means that it won't be uneven disruption. You have Europe, you have North America, and then that just leaves the wide open Pacific, which of course right now is totally unaffected by anything, but which is precisely what would be affected with the Calibra event. Quite specifically, Europe with its with its restricted its energy crisis and coming planned Trump um, protectionist, which is going to cut off oil. This blanket tariffs thing for Mexico and Canada means they're going to be strangling both oil imports into the U.S. So that's North America, and then you have Europe. In both cases, energy supply restriction and trade restriction, and then that just leaves the Pacific, which is exactly where the Mega Quake would disrupt, and conveniently the Calibra event would be after all this starts. So it's like everything is synced to evenly disrupt and crash things all around the same time. So you see that fills in the gap. Culebra fills in the wide gap in the middle. That is the Pacific. So that also is what makes a lot of sense in this. Like, look, Japan obviously has no problems right now. Right now, of course, and that's where everything changes with the megaquake. It's eerily normal and calm with the Pacific before the megaquake comes into play. So yeah, it adds up evenly, everything together.
How much time do you allocate looking at the financial aspect of all this? Because you know your
Um,
stuff, Brent. You. Yeah. I mean, your analysis is. I mean, I can tell you spend a lot of time.
yeah, I definitely do. Yeah, well, timelines, of course, are harsh. I really just use really this whole weird agenda 2030 as like a base for the timeline. So I think it has a maximum of 5 years to get to 2030 that everything will unfold. I don't think this is any timeline beyond 2030. So it has 5 years for things to unfold. And it could be sooner. The mega quake could be well before that. But overall, I see everything going down before 2030. That at least that's what I see. I posted a tweet saying the world will be unrecognizable by 2030. Within 5 years, everything will go down and change, and pretty much all the massive changes I anticipate will happen within these 5 years. That's what I said in a large, now very heavily viewed tweet.
Yeah, and as we wrap up 2024, put in perspective, 5 years is not that much time.
Yeah, it's not that much, no.
You've been hearing Agenda 2030 for so long, and we're close. We're very close.
Yeah. So overall, I would say like it won't feel that long overall with what's going down. Like the fact that the world looks like it will be that completely changed in that time, that's like the same time that's transpired since COVID emerged. Basically, in the time that we watched this COVID transpire up until this point now, that's the time, that's the amount of time that will pass, of course, for all this to unfold. Yeah, that's 5 years. Yeah, that's 5 years. 2020 through 2024. That would be a total of 5 years, actually. Yeah.
So
So
what do you?
that's
Oh, go ahead, Brent. Sorry.
yeah. You can continue now.
What do you tell people then? What can they do, if anything?
Well, the hard truth is you can tell the lucky few who will listen and do something. Simple things like living off the land. Of course, the vast majority, nothing. If you try to talk openly to all those millions living in New York and LA, there's nothing you can do. Absolutely nothing. How could you move? You would have to move New York and completely shift the lives of everyone, which won't happen. The vast majority of the population will succumb to whatever is going to happen. So, so yeah, the vast majority of the population will succumb to what's happening, and the select lucky few that you can warn and advise, they can do something. Like if I know a few people that I even want to tell the people I know from Mexico and Canada, how about you just come to Mexico? Forget about staying in Canada and just go straight to Mexico. And others try going to the Amazon. Yeah. So that will be very few people. There's not enough room to for the vast majority of people to move. So
And
of course the population is going to be all screwed.
and they're not going to be able to take Starbucks. I'm assuming after the Calibra event, Starbucks will not be coming along. The lattes that people are used to.
Yeah,
I'm kidding.
there's a
I'm
lot
kidding,
of
but
people
it's a
that
joke.
work. Yeah, you definitely won't have the Starbucks or the Tim Hortons. Not Tim Hortons either for Canadian. No Tim Hortons, no Starbucks. People that are used to the office life, um, I think a large portion of the people that live this 9 to 5 office and all that life are completely unprepared and won't listen and won't accept that everything is supposed to crash, and that they have to accept agrarian lifestyle. Yeah.
How do you manage all this? Knowing what you anticipate coming. How do you know keep it together?
I actually view it very positively, knowing that I can prepare and I'm doing that preparation already. It's easy with so few people aware. Like I'm stocking up on a complete set for solar energy. I'm going to be buying mobile devices. I already finished buying my huge collection of seeds. I have a wide collection of seeds that I bought all in Mexico, and I'll be using for planting. And I'm going to get a full solar energy technology setup so I can. I've already tested that out before. You can completely go off grid on a simple life, buying foldable solar panels, getting tablets, other mobile USB chargeable devices, speakers, all these things you gather and completely feel comfortable about what will happen later when things go down and there's no supply chain and you can't buy them anymore after. And I'm preparing to buy all of that now. So you see that's what I'm doing. It'll actually be intriguing knowing that the vast majority of the population will not be able to have these things. I'm at least taking a chunk of the modern conveniences and comforts and taking them into this off-grid life. Did this thing disconnect?
No, I'm still here. Your screen's frozen, but I can still hear you.
Did this video disconnect?
No, you're here. Brent, can you hear me?
Yeah.
You're
Did it
good.
disconnect?
No. It's just
Good
frozen.
now?
No, you're frozen, but
Oh, it
that's okay.
froze.
That's okay. It'll unfreeze in a second. Where can people find you?
Okay, I think it's good. The cheap Mexican
Oh,
Wi-Fi
there
or
you go.
something?
There you go. You're unfrozen
Gosh,
now.
that's so annoying.
Where could people find you?
What?
Where can people find you? Where can they find your work?
Oh, that's on Twitter. Well, it's generally based on Twitter. Like Twitter is my base.
And your Twitter
Yeah.
handle for people that don't know?
It's MX Donde Vivo in Spanish. MXDONDEVIVO. So in Spanish, it's MX Donde Vivo. That's how you say it in Spanish.
And
Yeah,
you'll
which means in Spanish, Mexico where I live.
and then once people find that, they'll see Canadian earthquake researcher will pop up. You'll see the name. And then also your Instagram?
And Instagram is Nomad Canadian. Yeah, Nomad Canadian, which is much easier. Yeah, yes. So as I was saying before, the Mexican Wi-Fi messed up. You can see I'm very comfortable with what's happening because I am eliminating most of the things I don't even like about modern society and will be prepared to have everything that I want and a sustainable lifestyle. And I actually feel that I will be able to live pretty comfortably uh, when all this goes down. You see, I am not so I'm not in any way feeling negative or feel anything bad about what this will be like. You see?
So
Yes.
what will you do now for the rest of the year? We got a week left of 24 and the beginning of 25. What are your plans then?
Um. Well, there's not a lot. I just work. I really just work in Mexico City, still buying more agricultural supplies, and then when when it looks like something might be going wrong in the economy, that's when the plan moves forward with going very quickly to the rural transition. So I'm really just waiting because I'm not going to that yet. I'm really just waiting for something to happen with the global economy. I feel like the economy is going to go off before the mega quake. That's a lot of what I see now. I think the mega quake won't be the beginning of it. It's going to happen during the economic chaos because that'll be like almost like the last thing that happens pretty much when things are going down. I'll know when something is off and then just preparing to exit the city lifestyle and immediately set up and move to the agrarian lifestyle. It's going to happen sometime next year. So I don't know. Is the Wi-Fi?
No, I'm here. I got you.
Is the Wi-Fi in having problems again?
No. Can you hear? Can you see me? Can you hear me?
Is the Wi-Fi having issues again?
No, you're Brent. Can you hear me?
I'm not sure what's going on with this.
Yeah,
it's this Wi-Fi.
Here, so I was going to end with this. Can you hear me?
Barely.
Okay, so
this is the problem with technology.
It is. Let me end with this. Let me end with it.
Your screen is frozen.
But you can hear me though.
Yeah.
Okay, so
can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you fine. I was just going to say I appreciate you doing this.